Now, for the first time on the second channel, I'm going to be reviewing a movie. The movie in question is the new Scream 5 movie. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, I don't really understand the need for another Scream installment to this already drawn out movie series, but I was open-minded to seeing some improvements from the previous movie that released in 2011. Now, of course, major spoilers before the video even starts, so if you've been waiting to watch this movie, please watch it first and then come back. Maybe we'll have the same opinions on this movie because there are a lot of things that just don't hit for me in this movie and that I feel like they did completely wrong. I wrote the beginning of the script a couple months back. I watched this movie one time through, but when I went to watch it again so I can have my actual review, it was just extremely hard to sit through and just rewatch, which made me hold off on the review. I finally found the courage to rewatch it a couple more times through, of course, alcohol, to rewatch this movie like twice. So here's my actual and honest review. Scream 5 takes the same approach as Halloween 2018 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with relaunching the series and making the new movie take place 25 years into the future after the first set of killings done by Billy Loomis and Stu Mock. But the movie would still throw in some information regarding those older movies, so it didn't actually act as if those movies never existed. We follow Tara, played by Jenna Ortega, and Sam, played by Melissa Barbera. The movie starts off as any Scream does, with Ghostface calling the soon-to-be victim, and while he's on the phone, asks the victim a string of questions. This has been done time and time again, but this time it had a little twist. Ghostface attacks Tara after she wasn't able to correctly guess the last answer to Ghostface's question. Now, I did like how in Scream 5 they use a security system that can lock every door in the house, but it still confuses me that Ghostface was able to unlock the doors of Tara's house without using the same app. I mean, I guess he could have used like a jammer, but I think that's only used for like cell phone towers and services that way. This is never really explained throughout the movie, and that just annoys me because I really wanted to know how that was even done. Ghostface ends up behind Tara and starts going crazy with the stabbings, and just when we think Ghostface was gonna get the last fatal blow, the cops show up and Tara is sick. We are then shown the front of a bowling alley, and sitting out front is Tara's sister. Sam gets a phone call from Wes Hicks, played by Dylan Minetti from 13 Reasons Why, and he tells her that Tara was attacked the night before from Ghostface. Well, as he says, a guy with a mask. Sam and her boyfriend Richie, played by Jack Quaid, Dennis Quaid's son, end up taking the trip to visit Tara at the hospital. But before this, we get a pretty cool callback to the original movie where the friend group all hang out outside of the school and talk about what happened. They discuss Sam and how she up and left Tara when she turned 18. During the scene, we get a quick introduction to Wes's mom, who's played by Marley Shelton, coming back to reprise her role as deputy/sheriff Judy. Wes tells the group that they need to stay together and armed so that they don't die. During the scene, we also get introduced to the first fake out killer, whose name is Vance, who is staring at Liv from far away. Liv tells Chad that Vance was posting a lot of crazy and disturbing things on his social media, and this points him out to be one of the main suspects because he's back in town right when Tara gets attacked. While Sam and Richie drive to the hospital, Sam gives Richie backstory of the murders that plagued town over 20 years ago, and for some reason Richie has no clue what she's talking about, which is weird because even if he didn't grow up in Woodsboro, then at least I think he would still learn about the murders on the news. Once Sam gets to the hospital, she has a heart-to-heart with Tara. The reason why is because she left when she was 18 years old, leaving Tara behind and also cutting off all communication to her friends and family. When she comes into the room, we meet the other characters, Mindy and Chad Meeks, who are Randy's nephew and niece, Liv and Amber, and then we are reintroduced to Wes. That night, they all go out to a bar and discuss Sam and her absence from Tara after Sam turned 18. Wes talks about how Amber is gatekeeping Tara from Sam, and Mindy tells Wes that his motive to try and kill Tara, in her words, is if I can't have her, no one can. Mindy tells Wes that they all know that Wes has a crush on Tara, but that they are all suspects. Vance pulls up to the bar and asks Liv if she wants a real drink. This sparks a fight between Vance and Chad, ultimately leading to Vance getting kicked out of the bar and then killed by Ghostface after Vance takes a piss on the wall. The lights on his car turn on and the car revs its engine. Vance walks up to the car and sees no one in it. He reaches into the car to turn the engine off, but as soon as he comes out of the car, he gets stabbed in the back of his neck. This was the first kill from Ghostface, and this kill was pretty mid. I know if you've seen the movie, you'll be like, one stab and that was it. We are then taken back to the hospital. Sam goes to take her medicine and then sees in the reflection of the mirror Billy Loomis. Billy asks Sam, when is she gonna tell Tara the reason why she got attacked? But then the phone rings and guess who it is? Ghostface tells Sam that he knows her secret. She tells Ghostface to come kill her, and he ends up being in the same room with her and is like, okay. Richie blames Amber for being the killer, and she does the same to him. Eventually, Sam tells Richie and Amber to leave the room, though she can tell Tara that she is a daughter of Billy Loomis and how she's the reason why their father left them when they were younger, because she ran into her mom's room after finding out that Billy was her father, and she didn't know that her dad was right behind her. Tara tells her to get out of the room and leave her alone. Richie and Sam leave leave to go and talk to Dewey. Sam tells Dewey the situation, but Dewey says he's not gonna help, but will later have a change of heart and help. Dewey calls Sidney Prescott to tell her about the murders and to tell her to stay away from Woodsboro. Dewey then thinks about calling Gail, but ends up texting her instead. The gang meets up at Chad and Mindy's house, where Sam tells the gang that she is the daughter of Billy Loomis and that someone in their clique is the killer. Wes and Dewey have a pretty funny interaction where Wes tells Dewey that he's probably the killer because he lost everything, and then Dewey comes back and is like, oh, you're probably the killer too because that hurt.
To be one of us. And what about Deputy Dewey here? Maybe he's the killer. No offense.
None taken, but what's my motive?
You got stabbed 1 billion times, got dumped by your famous wife, and crawled into a bottle. I think it's safe to say you're on the suspect list.
Well, maybe you're the killer. Because that cut deep.
They then talk about Vance and how his mother was Stu Macher's sister. Mindy states that the killer is making their own version of Stab 8, but doing it as a requel because of how bad the movie was. I think this was a jab at Scream 4 and how bad that movie was, and how it ultimately killed the franchise for 11 years. Sam leaves the house after the gang points a finger at her for being the new Ghostface, and almost drives into traffic after talking to her dead dad Billy Loomis in her rearview mirror. I really hate these parts that have Billy Loomis. There's absolutely no need for it, and it makes no sense. The next kill happens to be Deputy Judy, aka Sheriff Judy, who leaves to go get food, but then gets a call from Ghostface threatening to kill Wes. Sheriff Judy turns her car around, and as she makes it to the house, before she opens up the door, she gets stabbed. Wes then walks around the house. We get a million fake outs before he actually ends up dying right after his mother. Wes's kill was pretty brutal, and Dylan Minetti does a great job selling the brutality of the kill. Gail Weathers pulls up to the crime scene where she sees Dewey and yells at him for only texting her about the murder. Around the 55-minute mark of the movie, we get a cool cameo with James Denise and his wife where they talk about Stab 8. This was a bright spot in the movie and made me a little excited to see a fellow YouTuber be on the big screen, but this scene only lasted 20 seconds, which kind of sucked. After this, Sam and Dewey go to the hospital. Tara ends up getting attacked once again, and every movement that she does just seems like she's in agonizing pain. When she starts to get scared, you can hear her heart monitor start to beat even faster until she takes it off. The lights go off, and she's left alone to defend herself from Ghostface until Sam and Dewey get there. Richie ends up showing up early, but Tara hits him in the head with a phone, and then he gets attacked by Ghostface. Dewey and Sam finally show up and shoot at Ghostface until there's a crazy fight between Dewey and Ghostface. Ghostface almost kills Dewey until he gets up and shoots him, but Dewey never double tapped Ghostface, so right before they're about to leave and go down the elevator, Dewey turns around to go give the fatal blow, but Gale ends up calling his phone, which distracts Dewey, and then he ends up getting killed. Dewey is the first character of the original movie to actually die in these later movies, which is crazy to see even happen. Ghostface says that it's an honor to kill Dewey, and then we're back to the next scene. Sidney comes back to Woodsboro to comfort Gale and tries to give advice to Sam, but Sam just tells Sidney that she's running away with Tara. Sidney puts a tracker on Sam's car so they could follow them. Tara can't find her inhaler, so she asks to go to Amber's house to get her spare inhaler. Of course, Amber is having a party when they get there, and this is the generic slasher ending scene where shit just hits the fan, and we find out who exactly the killer is. Throughout this ending segment, bodies start dropping like flies. Chad is the first one to die when he goes to look for Liv. This is also the same time that Sam, Tara, and Richie all pull up. Richie tells everyone to leave the party, and then we are left with the survivors. Sidney and Gale call Sam to tell her that she's at Stu Macher's house where the original killings happened a long time ago. Ghostface finally shows up and stabs Mindy. Amber blows Liv's brains out and confesses that she's the killer. Richie tries to tell Sam that Tara is the other killer because she's the one that brought them all together and brought them to Amber's house, but Sam kind of just brushes it off. Sidney and Gale pull up to the house and Amber runs out the house begging for help, but they see right through this gag. Gale does end up getting shot, but she stays alive. Sidney is a veteran, so she goes in the house and starts shooting every door until she shoots Richie. And then Sidney falls from the stairs with Ghostface and begs Richie to pick up the gun. Sam grabs the gun instead and pushes Richie behind her to try to shield him, but she ends up getting stabbed by Richie. Richie turns out to be the second Ghostface. Richie also shows that he had Tara's inhaler the whole time. Richie and Amber say that the reason they are doing all of this is to rewrite the movie because Stab 8 was trash. Richie states that Hollywood is all out of ideas and this is a way to get a new, better movie. Sidney reaches for a knife, but then gets stabbed. Richie tells Sidney that they can't let her live this time. Richie and Sam fight over the gun, with Sam ultimately getting away. Gale and Sidney beat the shit out of Amber and set her on fire. Oh my gosh. Sam sees another vision of Billy Loomis telling her to grab the knife, and I just can't be asked at this part. So Sam ends up grabbing the knife and stabs Richie through his face and tells Richie to never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer, and then starts stabbing the shit out of him and ultimately kills him. The movie ends, and during the credits, it dedicates the movie to Wes Craven, which they should have just never did that because it wasn't a good movie. Now let's get into the good and bad of this movie. Scream 2022 adds new elements like the GPS tracker with Chad's kill and the security app from Tara's opening scene. Jenna Ortega was one of the best parts of this movie. She had had great acting, and when she was on the screen, you could tell just how devoted she was to play Tara. Like I said before, every time she was on the screen when she was injured, you could just tell how agonizing and in pain she was. Richie was also decent as an actor as well. He was really likable as a character, but was an obvious killer. I did like that they brought in the original gang, and also how they killed off one of the original people from the original movie, even if it wasn't Sidney Prescott. I think at this time, we just needed one of those original three to die. And I know we don't really need it, but to progress the story. Now it's time to get into the bad, and there's a lot of it. Melissa Barea as the lead actor for this movie was just a really bad pick. She seems really unrealistic. Some of the scenes where you'd expect her to have some real emotions, she just has none. Like a lot of the times, even like the sadder scenes, but she has like a straight face with no emotions. And I just don't understand why she would be the main character in this movie. Honestly, I don't know if that's how they wrote her character, but it was just bad acting altogether. I don't believe that she will be the actual final girl when the second movie comes out, but that's just my opinion. Oh my gosh, don't get me started on the Billy Loomis parts. I just hated those parts. I had no clue why they even put them in there and like why he's even in the movie. That shit was just so stupid. Like out of all the movies in the franchise, this one ended up being the dumbest just because of those scenes. Billy was never meant to be like this likable character, even in the original, like even before we found out that he was the killer. But bringing him back just to be in Sam's head just makes no sense. We would have gotten the same result if Sam just found out that Billy was her father without the interactions. And we keep hearing about Tara and Sam's mother, but we never actually see who she is, and I'm very confused because it's not like she's in the original movie either. I also feel like this was a carbon copy of Scream 4 with the reasoning behind the killings. During both of those movies, they have two killers that want to be infamous. They really don't want to kill Sydney for any other reason besides their own selfish gain, and to be either immortalized as the new final girl or to rewrite a movie. It's just stupid. I held off on making a review on this movie because of the reviews. I think at the time it had like 7 out of 10 stars, which was nuts because the movie wasn't good. I didn't want to make a movie review with so many good comments because I didn't want people to just think that I was like going against the grain. But now as time went on, people see just how lazy and badly written this movie actually was. A lot of the times when Gail and Dewey were on the screen together, it was like a melodrama of like sadness because of them breaking up. It wasn't good. It didn't gel really well. Like I was saying in the beginning, the Scream franchise should be something that you're able to rewatch time and time again. I've done it with the original movies, but this movie was really hard to sit through, like even through one time. And it's insane because the first time that I watched it, I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm not going to rewatch it again. But I really felt like I had to rewatch it again. But as I was trying to rewatch it, I just couldn't get into it. I wasn't immersed. It wasn't something that was new that would like get me to watch it. This movie had a budget of $21 million and made $84 million at the box office. And going into this movie, I really thought this was going to be the last Scream movie before I even checked it out. But there's already a sequel for this movie in the making, which is really sad because I don't even know where they're going to take it. Have you seen this movie? If you have, let me know in the comments below if you've liked it or not. I didn't like it. This is the end of the video. If you're new here, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and give me more suggestions to the next movie I should watch. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.